You don't actually need January 1st to start over. You don't need a countdown, and you don't need permission from the calendar at all. I realized this while crossing into the new year at 35,000 feet, where nothing changed at midnight except the distance traveled. And that moment made me question something. We rarely talk about how much power we give artificial timelines, especially over our lives. This is your weekly reset. Let's talk about it. Recently, as I was crossing over the New Year's in a plane, I started thinking to myself, like, New Year's is a moment where there's a lot at stake, high energy, and the whole world is always excited about the countdown, the big countdown from the previous year to the new year. And rightfully so, this is a good moment to check in with yourself, see what you did good, see what you could have improved on, and 365 blank pages for you to turn on the page, essentially. And there's usually like a collective pressure to emerge into the new year as a fundamentally different person. But when I looked around this plane, I realized that in that moment, the atmosphere was very stoic. Like there were no balloons, there were no champagne. We're just this good old plane going from point A to point B. No grand proclamations, just, passengers trying to get home. And when you're in there, all you can hear is just the engines and just conversations, babies sometimes crying, and it's a very different feeling as opposed to the one that you feel if you were with family, friends, or just being around and doing your thing, And it hit me that moment that the new year was just simply another mile over the ocean. And this got me to think about how we put a lot of pressure on ourselves when it comes to artificial timelines. I call them artificial because I think as humans, we're obsessed with deadlines, and dates such as January 1st typically magnify our expectation, and a simple turn of the calendar or a shift of December 31st to January 1st becomes a full audit of our lives. We convince ourselves that if we don't begin on January 1st, we've somehow missed our chance. And I know I feel that way about a lot of things. What date is it today? I think it's January 9th. 9 is my favorite number. And I've not been as consistent as I would have loved to be with my fitness routine just because of travel, settling in. But I think that shouldn't be the case. You know what I mean? When I was watching the travelers in the plane, something stood out to me. And that plane didn't care about January 1st. It only cared about the path that he was on. And that path was to go to the next stop, and that'll be it, final destination. And sometimes I think dates like January 1st, we wait for them to validate a change that we already knew we needed to make. So, for instance, if I wasn't consistent in December of 2025, I already knew that I needed to be consistent with my workout regimen. So January is just a continuation of December. I don't necessarily need January 1st to start my new workout routine, because if I was not consistent in December, somehow, somewhat, those habits are going to creep up in January, and it's just going to be the same. And that's why I said, for me, like, I'm not really worried because I know I've been consistent enough for a long time. So the pressure for January 1st, and today is the 9th, and I'm still like, okay, I'm good. Like, I'll figure it out, because I know once I get the momentum going, I'll be good. So that pressure, I think sometimes is just too much, And I feel like we often mistake starting over for a singular explosive moment, We wait for the grand opening, the perfect Monday, a symbolic reset that will give us that permission to act. And we shouldn't put that pressure of timelines on ourselves. I think it's too much, So as I stay with myself and try to start this new year on a different type of energy, I think I realized something that is very profound to me. And you can literally rewrite your reality at 2 p.m. on a random Tuesday. That's okay. January 1st is cool, but today is better, because at the end of the day, real change, like the one that is profound and long term, it doesn't necessarily need like a grandiose entry. It starts off quietly. It starts off very uncertain. You know, starting over is a strategy, it's not a ceremony, right? And when you take away the hype of the New Year's and all that jazz, a few things remain true. Your timeline is internal, your progress is private, and your day one begins when you decide to do things differently. As I said, around 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. You don't need to do it on Monday so that it comes out as a perfect outcome. It's just too much pressure. I think every moment deserves its own reality. And if we operate from that perspective, I think we can do good. You don't need a global countdown to give you permission to change. Like, you just need the courage to admit that the current direction is not working. Let's adjust the coordinates so that we can head in the right direction. And you can do that at any time. So I also came to this conclusion that, you know, these big resolutions that we do for January 1st typically fail within, they say, within the first 15, 16 days. And that's because they obsess over the destination. Like, I want to get in shape this year. And if I don't do X by this, then consider it a failure. And the reality is there's always going to be turbulence. I guess it's only 9 days into the year. How many things have you put time into or you had resolutions for, and somewhat an emergency came up? Maybe you fell sick, maybe this and that. So we don't account for the turbulence that comes with these grand resolutions. And that's why it's so important to like just run your race, you know, run your race. And you come to realize real change is built quietly. It's the small, consistent shifts in behavior that compound over time. And you realize this is completely different from the emotional high of like a midnight toast and, you know, the New Year bang. And I want to make this clear. I don't have anything against New Year's. I just feel like we put too much emphasis on it. And over the years, as you understand life, you come to realize a new year, a new day can be any day that God gives you. Life is a new day, a new opportunity to pursue your dreams, pursue your purpose, pursue your vision, anything. It's always up to you, and you can do it in one day. Your life literally can change in one day, and you just got to keep showing up. So I feel like as we start this new year, the goal is not to be a brand new person in January. I think the goal should be to be intentional day by day. Like, how am I taking charge of my day on a day-to-day basis? That should be what we're focusing on, not trying to be brand new for January and then not knowing what to do afterwards. I think as we come to the close of this reset, I want to encourage you, whether you're just taking off or already in your mid-flight for your journey, just stop watching the clock and start trusting the compass and the process, because your work is valid. You have put in the time. You've dedicated a lot of time to be the version that you are today. Yeah, there's always room for improvement, but also just be intentional with your day. I think it's so important to understand that. And my final thought on reflection for you is, you know, maybe growth isn't about waiting for the right moment. Maybe it's about recognizing that the moment has already arrived. So this was your weekly reset. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a comment, subscribe, share your thoughts, and we'll meet again next week. Remember to read, reflect, and rise. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week.